thanks for coming this evening. I'm Renee from Wholefoods. I'd like to start by sort of explaining my passion. These two gentlemen here were just asking me before about why I set Wholefoods and how it came about. I'm a chef, for 15 years before I set up Wholefoods. I've just been told, I'm going to use you as an example again, I was just told you should never trust a thin chef. So thank you for the compliment. But prior to Wholefoods, which is 6 years ago, Wholefoods became a brainchild of mine, I was overweight, 3.5 stone heavier than I am now, and attributed a lot of that to lifestyle. But also I suffered a family bereavement when I was 26. My sister died of breast cancer, and working in the food industry, I used food as a big crutch. So that was kind of my way of dealing with stress and grief was to overeat. But on another side of things, I'd always been overweight as a young woman. I'd yo-yoed, and if you looked at me as a person, you would have seen someone that lacked confidence, was quite self-conscious. I didn't have very good communication skills. I'd sort of shy away from a confrontation rather than address it. I kind of thought that I was heavy, thick skin, big boned, as they say. That's I thought that was how I was supposed to be. And so I was kind of just accepting my lot. And then I went travelling around Asia when I was 31, and I wanted to try all the foods that they had in Asia, so in Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and I was eating all the foods that they naturally eat in those countries. And within 6 months, at the end of my 6 months, I was almost vegan. I was like, oh God, how did that happen? And it's because, those countries, they don't have dairy, they don't really have wheat in their diet. Most of Thailand is vegetarian, most of Vietnam is vegetarian, and it wasn't just a natural weight loss that I started to enjoy, but I started to gain clarity and focus. I started to actually have a deeper understanding as to who I was, and it was like the penny dropped. I thought, hang on a minute, this is food. So all the time in my 20s and sort of prior to that, when I kind of felt that I'd grown into the woman that I'd become, I didn't realise that I could control that. And I could control it through what I ate. And so now we're 6 years down the line, and I'm talking to you, I'm confident, I'm happy, I have better relationships. I don't do this with my mum anymore, we can communicate. I had the confidence to step away from the life that I knew and set up Raw Chief Food. So what I'd hope to do at the end of this talk is inspire you and help, you come here tonight to learn something. And I'd like to be able to teach you to just make a few changes. And of course my hook in getting you here was to the promise of chocolate. So you're all like, when are we going to talk about the chocolate? There's a lovely lady, a Russian lady that's living in America at the moment. She contacted me last week, and she's very passionate about raw chocolate. And she asked me to write a story for her book about, what raw chocolate's done for me. Raw chocolate, actually, it sounds very dramatic, but it changed my life because I was very attached to confectionery. I was attached emotionally to sugar and to that need, that inherent need for the comfort that the sugar gave me. But it was a very small high, and of course the knock-on effect is the addiction, and you keep going and you keep going. And then when I tried raw chocolate for the first time, and I started, obviously I enjoyed the taste of it, but when I started to read and study and learn, it just opened up a whole new world to recognise that chocolate, cacao in its purest form, is the most nutritious food we've got on the planet, on land. So we have marine-based greens, your algae, your forelli, spirulina, things like that. They're the most nutritious foods we've got in the sea. But cacao, which we make chocolate from, we can actually gain the most amount of nutrition. It's the highest in magnesium, and in the West, 80% of Westerners are deficient in magnesium. And unfortunately, what this means is when we don't get the magnesium we need, calcium's not working. So we're seeing a lot more osteoporosis and problems like that. That's one thing. And there's quite a lot of men in this room tonight, which is it's women that normally have a strong attachment to chocolate and a need for it, or like that addiction, I want chocolate. Women lose magnesium once a month, and so for that reason, they're steering, the memory is, they're steering towards having something that their body needs and craves. Unfortunately, as Andy said before, when you're having it in a dairy milk, you're having it in this form. Half of it's milk, as he said, and then the other bits, we've got soy proteins, we've got stabilisers in there, we've got E numbers, we've got some soy protein going on, we've got some flavourings, it's been heat treated, and so in fact, the nutritional value of what you've got left is just being reduced and reduced. To the point where our brains are very, very astute, so they know that there's something within that chocolate that we can draw upon and is healthy for us. So there's two sort of needs there. If you're having confectionery, it's the sugar, the body wants the sugar, and we're having those sugar highs. But it's also that intellectual memory of there's something here that's good for me. So prior to raw chocolate, if you put a dairy milk in front of me, I'd eat the whole lot because I wanted it. There wasn't an off switch. But with raw chocolate, which it's about time I pass them around, you can try for yourselves. With raw chocolate, you just want to pass it around. It's so nutritionally dense. I mentioned magnesium. It's high in copper. It's high in iron. It's high in zinc. It's high in chromium. It's got really, really high in serotonin and dopamine and all neurotransmitters. So it's a super nutritious food. It's also extremely high in antioxidants, so it's protecting the body from free radicals. But when you have a little bit of chocolate and you have it in your diet every day, the body is getting high impact nutrition. So rather than sitting there going, I need to eat it, you're actually naturally stopping at the point where your body says, thank you very much, I've just had what I need, I don't actually need to overeat anymore. So we mentioned before about willpower. I didn't just suddenly develop willpower when I went on my travels to, around Asia, and suddenly I've become this person that can resist the delights of foods. My palate's changed, and my inherent need changed. So it's almost like I got rid of that addiction for processed foods or sort of high sugary foods because my body was being fed. And for the first time, my body was being fed living food, raw, organic living food. And prior to that, and I didn't know that because I was a chef and I was cooking what I thought was wholesome food, but I was cooking it and I was heating it, probably, up to about 80 degrees, so I was actually killing most of the nutrition from it. So I came back from travelling and I really, really wanted to learn more about raw foods, more about how I can incorporate them. And my first book is what's with chocolate. So have you all had a sample of the chocolate now?
It's working its way
It's
around.
working its way around.
Yeah. You've got held up in the middle there, but everyone knows the culprit.
You've got some.
Most of us have a love affair with chocolate, and I mentioned some of the key nutritional factors in chocolate, which is great. It's kind of surprising when you hear how nutritionally dense it is. But the most romantic part about chocolate is that when we fall in love, our body creates a neurotransmitter hormone called PEA. And there is no other food on the planet that contains this neurotransmitter apart from cacao. So when you fall in love and you've got those butterflies in your stomach and you wait to see that person, you want to think back, remember, it is there, that memory is there somewhere. That feeling that we had, that we were creating, that our body was making, and we were feeling this euphoria, we gain that when we eat raw chocolate. Now you can gain it if you eat confectionery, but you can only gain a very, very, very teeny amount. But if you eat raw chocolate, it becomes part of your life. So it's nature's gift of loving you, because that's the feeling it gives you. So it's very commonly associated now that raw chocolate gives you feelings of calm and bliss and happiness. And that's what it is. It's that element. It's those neurotransmitters. So in fact, what it can do and what it does do, and throughout my coaching, I've seen it happen. It's giving the body the stress-free, the serotonin, the dopamine, the PEA, the neurotransmitters that our body needs. It's reducing stress in the body. It's actually helping to lower the blood pressure, regulate the blood pressure, and it's actually increasing your positivity. So there's a food here that's actually a natural high. So we spend most of our lives trying to make ourselves feel better. So previously, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, well, I can't see what I want to eat. What's going to make me feel good? But it was actually an emotional need, and the same with the pattern would continue all day long. Now I actually start my day, and I start with a simple muesli. Oh, that's not muesli, it's goji muesli. And in the muesli are cacao nibs. I'm actually going to open these up and pass these around. Cacao nibs is the nib that's broken from the cacao bean, and we break it up into nibs. So this is pure chocolate that hasn't been tampered with. So we'll open this up. You're nice or something.
Get the man up there.
I need a pair of scissors. They're going to go everywhere, aren't they, as soon as I do that? There you go. So for those of you that are trying to figure out what I keep talking about, or chocolate, where is this coming from? What I'm passing around now is the nibs that come off the plants, that come off the trees, they come in the form of a pod. You break open the pod, and in it are the beans. And for me, it's kind of like, now when you think about it, you think about the story, it's like, you can pass them around. If you think about Jack and the Beanstalk, the story about where Jack comes home with the magic beans and his mother was horrified, and he plants these beans and this beautiful tree, it grows, and this huge big tree. Now in my head I just think, he obviously had cacao beans, he was actually, money doesn't grow on trees, but this is the best thing. This is the most, like, in terms of pharmaceutical foods, this has got 600 nutritional elements to it that our body requires. That's worth more than any money on the planet. To me, that's, that nature gave us this pharmacy and this beautiful tree, and that's what you're eating right now. You're getting all that nutrition straight from the tree. But most of us want to play around with food and we want to experiment and do something different. So the chocolate and how it becomes chocolate is just this. You've got beans that you're trying now, the nibs. The nibs are cold pressed exactly the same as if you were going to cold press an olive. So it's the same process. So you cold press it and you get what's commonly known as cacao butter, which is this. This is the resin. And then what's left out of when the oil is removed is cacao powder. So then, of course, all we do now is we melt the cacao butter to 38 degrees. And the reason we're going to melt it to 38 degrees is because in the world of raw foods, when we start to heat something at above 38 degrees, that's when we start to lose the nutritional enzymes. And we want to retain all the nutritional enzymes, we want to retain all the nutrition that we've got from the cacao. So we heat it to 38 degrees, and then we add the cacao powder back. So all we've done is actually change the molecular structure, but we've kept the nutritional value.
How do you keep it down to 38 degrees?
Sorry? It's actually got quite a low melting point. I mean, cacao butter, like chocolate's got a melting point. It melts at 36 degrees, which is our body temperature. So all I recommend people do is put a bowl of water and then put it over. I've got a dehydrator, so I set my dehydrator to 38 degrees and I put it in the dehydrator and let it melt that way. Some people use like a top of a lager, and some people have fan-assisted ovens where they can actually get it to 38 degrees. I don't trust most of those because they go to about 50. But it is relatively easy, you just put it in the pan. And then what I do to sweeten it is I use agave nectar, which is from a cactus. it's got very low GI to it. But what you've tried in the sample you had tonight is only 5% sugar in there. I try not to sweeten things too much, but we've all still got sweet palates. So I use agave nectar because I want it to be clean and pure sugar. So when I'm eating raw chocolate, how often do I eat it and how do I get it into my diet? I could just simply eat raw chocolate all the time, but it would be quite boring, and I'm still a chef at heart. So I want to have a very varied diet, and I want to include lots of foods in my diet, lots of superfoods. The reason I include lots of variation of superfoods in my diet is because I want to protect my body from disease. I want to be as healthy as I can be, so that in my later years, I'm not chasing a train after it's left the station. I'm not sitting in a doctor's surgery with somebody telling me that I've got breast cancer or I've got heart disease or something. And if I'd have carried on the way I was when I was in my 20s, then I could have used the excuse, well, I was grieving, my sister died, or, my boyfriend left me, or I was gazumped on my house, or whatever. Life gets in the way, and we find excuses as to why we are who we are. If I had carried on that path, I could be a very, very different person right now. I could be sitting at home watching EastEnders, 6 stone heavier than what I am right now, and not have had the insight and the joy out of life. And now, the beauty of when your body is getting the nutrition it needs, you have clarity and focus and optimism, and you have the beauty of the fact that you're healthy. So prior to raw foods, superfoods, I had headaches, I had a really poor immune system, I'd probably catch common colds, flu, migraines, things like that. I was very emotional, so my hormones were everywhere. And now, I don't have those symptoms, those feelings. My hormones are in check. My immune system's very high. My energy levels are really high. So I've been up since 6. I've been working all day. I've driven from Manchester to here. I'll give this talk tonight. I'll pack everything away and I'll go back to Manchester. And I can do that. And I actually don't even think about it anymore. And some people go, oh, you must be exhausted. And I'm not. And that's what I'm trying to inspire to people. And I can blast you with science all night long. And I can tell you what all the superfoods, what's in them and what they're doing. It's got niacin in that hopefully we can help Andy stop smoking with some of the superfoods I've got there. I've got that.
Next step in changing my life.
That's the next step. That's why I'm here tonight. Like healing. I could do that. Or I could actually inspire you by showing you and telling you about changes. I had a client that came to me that had been on Prozac for 20 years. Doctors had told her she could never come off Prozac. She just didn't have the neurotransmitter function in her brain. She didn't have the ability to create and to have that positivity. And I just didn't believe it. And I looked her in the eye and said, we can change this if you're prepared to change. Now, I use a line with most people that meet me, and I say small changes make a big difference. I am not here to preach. I'm not here to ask someone to become vegan or vegetarian. I use a nice expression with people. I call myself a flexitarian, and I'm flexible with my diet. Monday to Friday, I have a way of life where I consciously get up and I'm mindful about that I want to eat to live. And I used to live to eat. So I used to live in a fast-paced lifestyle where I wanted to eat rich foods, opulent foods, foods that for a small amount of time made me feel good. Whereas now, I eat foods that I know are going to impact my life in a completely different way. They're going to actually make me feel positive, happy, attractive, confident, all those things that a woman wants to feel or any person wants to feel. And we don't have to be fanatical about it. So having given you lots of nice chocolate, I'm going to step away from chocolate for a second and I'm going to invite you to have a nice green drink. this size, if you're prepared to have this, then that's the deal. No, Andy, you'd like to help pass them round.
Truthjuice doesn't accept any responsibility for what may happen. Just a little improvise of our insurance company. Yes, this is real Truthjuice.
This is what I keep talking about, the natural highs. I'm going to be giving you all natural highs tonight. So I have coaching clients. I have people that come to me, and I mentioned about the lady that had Prozac and was on Prozac. She came to me for 6 months. We changed her diet. We looked at what she ate. She was never going to stop having her 2 Chineses. You know, she used to have 2 Chineses a week. I got her down to 1. You know, she still had things in her diet that she never wanted to change, but she added foods to her diet. And after 6 months, she kept going to the doctors and she came off that Prozac. So 20 years of being on an antidepressant drug and being dependent on that drug, and she came off it. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to show you all how you can make some small changes to your diet, yet the difference and the impact that they will have is quite significant. So the coaching clients that I have, having coached for 3 years, I went through all my case studies of all my clients and I put them into categories, and it was kind of like men, women, 60 plus, children, and kind of, you know, it ended up being that kind of category. And then I went through and I looked at the commonalities of what had been going on. And nearly everybody had poor immune system, everybody suffered from fatigue, most people were having trouble sleeping, most people had poor metabolism, it wasn't working the way it should do. Most women were dealing with hormonal imbalances, men a little bit of that, but a lot of men were dealing with things like physically, if they've got a physical job, they were fatigued quite early in the day, so they were looking for more energy. Also, men were dealing with more stresses. Men were having more high blood pressure, so there was lots of commonalities that I was seeing. And so with my coaching clients, and when I was invited to Truthjuice earlier this year, I used to get so excited about all these superfoods that can do all these things, like goji berries are really good for balancing the blood sugar levels and helping with arthritis. And, you know, I get really excited to tell people about all of these foods. They'd sort of leave going, how many, which, one, what was I supposed to do? So now I've sort of taken the stress out of everything for everybody and said, I'll just do it for you and I'll put it in a nice blend. So I've created lifestyle blends. And what I've just given you there is called Vitality. And in the Vitality drink, I mixed it with some organic apple juice. So in that, we've got plant-based greens and marine-based greens. So I've got barley grass, wheatgrass, chlorella, spirulina, and these are all superfoods that are going to clean the blood, offer us slow-releasing protein. They're high in antioxidants, and for those people that don't really know what that means, you know, we know that we need antioxidants, but we don't know why. We get free radicals from, which is a free radical damage from processed foods, from pollutants in the atmosphere. You walk out here tonight and you walk across the road and you're going to get sort of free radicals within the body from just the lifestyle that we lead. A build-up of free radicals in our body could compromise our immune system and leave us with chronic disease over time. So what we want to do is every single day we want to get high impact, high quality antioxidants, cacao being right up there at the top. And then we want the greens in there to give us the chlorophyll, the life-giving energy, good energy release, purify and cleanse the blood. Again, when we've got clean blood, white blood cells flowing around, the immune system isn't compromised. So I've put them in there. I've put high-impact vitamin C, baobab fruit, and acetia berry. and I've got an inulin in there, which is a good probiotic. So I'm trying to cover all angles for a strong immune system. And that, I just invite people to have a teaspoon a day in a glass of juice first thing in the morning. Or I can have it in water, and it's quite, I'm happy to have it in water because it's actually got raspberry in there as well, so it's quite soft to have. But some people don't eat juice. But that, a teaspoon of that, we've looked at it in a lab, and it's the same nutrition as if you're going to have a big bowl of salad. You're not going to sit and have a big bowl of salad in the morning, but you're fueling the body and you're building the immune system. And what happens when you do that, and when you maybe have some high-impact greens in a smoothie or in juice or in some water in the morning, it's offering slow-releasing protein. Spirulina has got 12 times more protein than beef in volume. Slow-releasing that energy throughout the day, keeping the body and the immune system, keeping you energized, steering you away from the other stuff because you've fed the body. So the body, you're not foraging around. I've got coaching clients that some of them are quite overweight, and they say, "But Renee, I'm always hungry." The body will keep asking for food if it's not given nutrition. So we're all overfed, but we've not got the nutrition. So I don't get cravings anymore. And I used to be a real cravings girl, and I didn't even know I was doing it. So when I worked in London, I'd get the tube home from work, I'd been surrounded by food all day, I'd had breakfast, I'd had lunch, I'd snacked on goodness knows what. And on the tube, I'd be there eating a double-decker or something, I wouldn't even know I was doing it. And that was just habitual. Whereas now, I'm so charged with nutrition that my body's not asking for anything else. And it's really liberating because it just means that I can get on with the other stuff. I can get on with, planning my life, having fun, doing, and I actually do more. I have more hours in the day because of high impact nutrition. So I actually have about, I easily get up at 6:30 now, whereas I used to be like lying in bed till 8:15 till the latest I possibly could. And now I'm ready for bed about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. So I'm not fatigued, and I'm not thinking I just want to go home and sit and watch TV. I'm out doing stuff. I've just written a book. I'm always organising things, and I love the fact that life has changed because of that. So that's hopefully what I can do for you guys, and you can have that too. I'm conscious of having a break tonight. When are we? We're not. I don't know.
Do another 10 minutes or it's okay?
Okay, no, that's great. We're going to do another 10 minutes. Migraine's locked in. Has anybody questions about anything I've said so far?
Does it matter what? Because I've been doing smoothies in the morning, and I've just been putting randomly maca, spirulina, vitamin C, just done everything. Does it matter what combination or how much you're taking, or is it just getting it in your diet? Is that the main objective?
It doesn't really matter. In terms of things like you said, vitamin C, so I use camu, baobab fruit, really high impact vitamin C foods. The body strips out what it doesn't need. So you might be wasting a bit of money, which obviously sometimes you don't want to do that. But I load up because, if I'm making things, then I'll just load up on superfoods and just really feel really great from it. If you're not used to it, it could be quite diuretic, but you're used to it because I've met you before, so I just don't think so at all. In fact, I had a client that was in the menopause, and I put her on shatavari root, kapkachu, and maca. Shatavari root and kapkachu are Chinese herbs, and maca is a superfood from Peru. But they all do a job, they all regulate hormone function, and specifically they're very good for women, for women's health. So I had her on those, and she called me up and she said, "Renee, I've been great for a month, but I've started to get the symptoms back again." And I said, "Why don't you just up your dose to so you think she's on a teaspoon of each? Just go up to 1.5 and see how you feel." And she called me up a week later and said, I just put more in and I feel much better. So absolutely. I mean, things like, when I went to LA this year because I wanted to see how, what superfoods are there, and I wanted to go, there's a longevity conference where they're kind of like, the Americans are at the forefront of pioneering, superfoods and what foods are healing and how they're healing. So I went there and I had some chaga mushrooms and they were just too powerful for me completely. They just didn't agree with me and they actually sent me a bit of a spin. So I think when you're looking at medicinal herbs and superfoods, you've got to be very careful on the herbal side. So, medicine mushrooms and things like that, your roots, I'd be careful. But the superfoods, just blend them in.
Are there any native superfoods?
Native, you mean to the UK?
Yeah.
Yes, nettles. And they're out there right now. And I pick them every day. And I've got a smoothie maker at home, a Vitamix. And I go out, because I live near fields, and I go out and I get my nettles. And I put them in and I'll make a green smoothie with nettles. So I might add all my other bits to it, but I use nettles every day at the moment. And I'm getting the blackberries off, I know blackberries aren't a superfood. Nettles are our biggest superfood.
All year round? Aren't they better in spring?
When they're flowering, they're not as good, and they're flowering at the moment, but they're better than anything I'm going to buy in the supermarket.
Any other
Anything. Your dandelions, your burdock, anything like that. Yeah, just your elderflowers. You can just put them in and just blend them up or juice them, and they're really, really good.
You were talking about the actual turnaround. The turnaround in the time of going down, 20 years of the body it was from actually going to that state of being healthy. What's the time scale?
That's a really good question. So I don't know whether you all heard that. This gentleman here asked about coaching someone, what's the turnaround of them feeling, obviously being in a state of, their health is compromised, to feeling good. Say, for example, if you were to just add 5 recommended superfoods to your diet. If I gave you 5, which last time I was here I was talking about my 5 favourite superfoods, which is bee pollen, goji berries, cacao, obviously I like to talk about cacao, spirulina and maca, so maybe I was talking about maca. And those 5, what they're doing is they're addressing inflammations in the body, neurotransmitter function, building the immune system, regulating the metabolism. They actually cover every aspect of your health. And I just invite people to have it, you can add the bee pollen, the cacao and the goji to your morning breakfast, and the other 2 you have a drink. You notice the difference within 2 weeks, you personally. And most people, because I say that, and most people don't know that, and then they'll email me or they'll phone me and they go, oh my goodness, you're right, I actually feel so much better. I went to a networking event, so I'm obviously trying to grow this business, and I went to a networking event and I was the only woman there. It was a 6:30 meeting. They didn't realise that I was going to be the only woman there, and so there's about 20 guys in the room and they're all talking into their bacon and eggs, and they're looking at me going, are you just going to have that fruit? And yeah, I'm fine with my fruit, it's great. And you're invited to stand up and chat for a minute on what your business is. And I thought, they just wouldn't, what's going to resonate. You guys are here because, you're open-minded, you want to learn, they're just there to network their own business. So I actually thought, well, I've got a bit of a challenge here. So I gave them a story of a client that I'd had recently, and it was a businessman who had come to me and said, I've actually don't want to know anything about the science of this. I just want to make more money. And at the moment, I'm not making enough money because I'm tired. And if you can help me with that, then that's all I want from you. So, okay, I looked at his diet, and I added superfoods to his diet. And I also, it's not just about superfoods, I was also adding more raw foods and more whole foods. but I changed his diet maybe 40%, that was it. So 60% was still all of the other stuff that he was used to having. And the story after 2 weeks, he said, absolutely amazing. He said, I'm now cycling to work, got loads more energy. I said, oh great, okay, well we'll check in with me after a month. Checked in with me after a month, and he says, just can't get over it. Productivity's gone through the roof. I used to be really tired at 2 o'clock. I'm still at my desk at 6 o'clock. I don't even feel hungry. I'm not needing to go out and eat the junk that I was eating. My coffee addiction's gone right down. He said, and do you know what? I'm having loads of sex with my wife. And he said, that to me is great. And he was all a bit embarrassed. I said, don't be embarrassed, that's a really good thing. He said, well, we've actually got intimacy and we're doing more together. So when I was at this meeting, that's the story I gave them, and they all were eating the bacon and eggs, and they hadn't been listening to a word I said up until the point where I said, and I'm having more sex with my wife, and they all said, where we sign? To which one of the men said, actually, you coach my wife, and I'm not getting more sex. What's happening? But that's how small changes are making a big impact. These aren't people that are thinking, I just want to be a vegetarian or a vegan, or I want to change the world, or I only want to eat organic. This is just everyday people, and the messages that are coming through. I mean, a woman saying to me, well, I do more with my family now. We go out as a family. My husband and I and the kids, and we want to do things at weekend, and previously we were shattered and we didn't want to do anything, or the kids were ill, or I was ill, or one of us was ill and we couldn't go anywhere. And just that's liberating to be able to do that, to be able to just say to someone, we just have these two things. I mean, another good example is, I was coaching, there's always like a sub-story. I was coaching a client, a woman, and I was coaching her, she had thyroid problems, so we were trying to address the thyroid problem. In fact, she actually came off her thyroxine. She was with a doctor, her doctor agreed that she could come off the thyroxine due to foods that she was having. But I was having a coaching session with her, and her daughter came in. And when I coach people, I actually, sometimes we go through a lesson where I'm showing them how to make something. So, I'll give you an example. She passed this round earlier. But we were making this chia pudding, porridge. Look at that. And I was just basically showing the client how, by having that for breakfast, that was actually helping with her hormonal imbalance, and we were making it together. Normally, her daughter would come in and be fascinated and want to eat it, want to try it, and she walked in through the kitchen, didn't say hello, up the stairs, slammed her bedroom door, and that was that. And I sort of went, what's happened to your daughter? She's normally lovely. Well, she said, she's hit puberty, she started periods, and she just hates me. So I said, well, I'm here helping you with your hormone problem, and you've got a hormonal teenager, what, So I said, well, let's address that, which brings me to this drink here. And so we made her what is essentially like a milkshake drink. Can you pass these around?
I thought this was Bailey's. I'm going to apologise in advance.
Do you know, it's much better than Bailey's. It's much better than Bailey's. It's going to do an awful lot more in the long run.
The ladies.
Well, this is actually the flexibility blend. But it's on the same vein as the luminosity and the masculinity. It's the generic one. So it's got maca in there, which regulates the hormone function. It's got cacao, so it's got your pure chocolate. It's blended with almond milk, so it's not got any dairy in it. So I gave the daughter a chocolate drink every day. And 2 weeks later, they're out shopping together, their mum and daughter are best friends again, and that relationship changed because we addressed the hormone imbalance. And it's just that, it's that easy. Yeah.
What's it like on the adrenals?
You mean in terms like effects that maybe caffeine can have, or
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good question. I've just been asked, like, what effects does chocolate have on the body in terms of when you have caffeine? Caffeine can compromise our adrenal glands, and it gives actually me heart palpitations. I've got a severe reaction to caffeine. Chocolate has an element of bromine in it, which is very similar to caffeine. It's actually got a very, very, very small amount of caffeine in it, but it's got bromine in it. And it actually works to help regulate your blood pressure, so it won't overstimulate the body. But saying that, there are people on this planet that would be allergic to cacao, just like someone could be allergic to carrots or apples, or we have some people would have that, and they would have an adverse effect, but it's very slight.
So it doesn't rip the nerves up or anything? Or?
No, it actually, because of the high magnesium content in it, and because of the sort of the serotonin and the dopamine, it actually relaxes the body. It actually calms the body, which then helps to regulate the blood pressure, and it actually helps promote sleep. So it does the opposite, really. Yeah, that's how I created the tranquility blend for people that were having trouble sleeping. Because I used to, I do recommend passion flower. Passion flower is a really beautiful herb that helps calm you down in times of stress, and sort of takes the anxiety from the body. But passion flower tastes horrible. So then, as I said, I read through my case studies of what I was telling people, and I was creating these blends for people, and I was like, hang on a minute, anyone can have that. So now we have the tranquility blend, and in that blend is peppermint, which is very calming and soothing, passion flower, which reduces stress in the body and helps with depression, and cacao, which is the biggest antidepressant food we have. They actually call it nature's Prozac. I think it's commonly known as that because that's what it does. Sorry? Yeah, IBS. Yeah, peppermint helps with IBS. Yeah, it's a really soothing herb. So the three together just work beautifully. Really, really nice. So it's a good sort of thing to have at night. Do you want me to wrap up and have a little break? Okay, I'm going to wrap up. When we come back, get some questions ready for me. I'm full of stories. I can talk about different superfoods. We can go back to chocolate. I'm just going to pull the break. You've got on your seat a recipe to make raw chocolate, so you can try it at home. So I'm giving you a recipe with some of the healing health benefits of it. I've actually got some more leaflets here that I can hand out, which actually tells you a little bit more about raw chocolate. So if we hand them out. Yeah, it's good. And also on your seat, I've got a retreat coming up in October. The weekend retreat is actually now $350. I think it says $375 on that sheet, so ignore that. I've still got places left on the weekend and some midweek. If you're interested or know anyone who might be interested, then give me a shout. Okay, I'm going to let you have a break.
Let's say thanks very much, Renee. Renee is going to come back and do, I thought if we do like half an hour just explaining some of the other foods and maybe even the agave and things like that, and then you can ask questions like throughout, interact. Like,
I'll answer that rice flour right straight away, that's why I turned that on. White rice, white bread, white potatoes, all the, pasta, things like that. It tends to glucose in the stomach. So it's like, so you're eating white rice, then the body recognises that as glucose and it's high energy food. So it's going to spike your sugar levels. So the same thing is going to go through that. You're going to get that same food and you're going to have a rice flour. That's my understanding of it anyway. So you can do it. There's plenty of other flours you can try.
Better than wheat flour.
Probably. Yeah. Lovely. No, brown rice is amazing because brown rice actually cleanses the colon as well, so it's really good. Yeah. I probably should always tell people that I'm not 100% raw. As I said before, I'm a flexitarian. And I was chatting to this lovely, I don't know your name, sorry, Claire. Chatting to Claire before I met her last time I was here. And she asked me, do I fall off the wagon? I went on holiday to Cornwall this year and I had Cornish ice cream. So please don't think that I am holier than thou and I would never have something that's bad for me. But I do pay the price of doing that because dairy is quite mucus forming on the body. So the next day I was like really nasally and I felt it really quickly because I don't have it in my diet. That being said, I enjoyed my Cornish ice cream that I had in Cornwall, so I'm not going to never do that again, but I am mindful that I'm not going to have it every single day of my life. So here you go, just to know that I'm not hungry now, and I do. And I will enjoy a nice glass of red wine as well at the weekends, and I'll try not to drink too many, and I'll certainly have organic, and I'll have it sulfate-free. So, it is about finding things that work in your lifestyle. I was 100% raw for 6 months, and I loved being 100% raw. So I was living a raw food diet of just fruit, nuts, vegetables, and seeds, and sprouting seeds, and that was my diet with Superfoods. And I felt amazing, and I looked amazing, and it just... We were talking before about when you're fully detoxed and when you're fully awake, the consciousness and everything lights are brighter and the world just seems so much clearer. And it was great, it was a really wonderful feeling, but it alienated me from my friends and family because they weren't raw. And some people are quite happy to just be very individual and be like that, but I'm a social beast and I like to be sociable and I like to be amongst things. So I also realised that I was causing myself stress because I was feeling the stress of being the people that were thinking, well, what are we going to feed Renee when she comes for dinner? And I was also just feeling generally that other people stressed about any given environment. And stress, when we're stressed, we use our cortisol hormone, and then when we use up our stress hormone, the body can flood with estrogen, and if it floods with estrogen, then you can get lots of other problems, knock-on effects. So I didn't want to cause any more stress in my body, so I found a balance. And that, my balance is great. I'm about 70% raw, 75% raw, and I like that. So I have brown rice in my diet, and, and I still eat cooked foods, and I'll still have some fish, if it's on offer and it's there. And so I am quite flexible with it, and it works for me. So whatever works for you, just keep going with that and keep learning and keep adjusting and keep trying what you know.
Are you trying to eat celery? I can't hear a word. Ridiculous.
At least he's eating celery in a raw food talk, And what's the celery doing? That's cleansing his body. It's actually working his metabolism. It's rehydrating him when he's eating it.
Yeah, it was like he was walking over a shattered patio. It's all right now.
Okay, I was asked to explain 2 things when you were all chatting to me during the break, so I'm going to quickly explain 2 of the things. One of them was most of you who met me before know that I got quite passionate about aloe vera. So some of the guys now are walking around with these big sort of aloe vera leaves. And so I'll chat quickly about why I ship aloe vera from Mexico, and then I'm just going to answer a few questions on detox, and then I'll open to the floor for any more questions. So I shipped this aloe vera from Mexico, and the farm that I get it from are actually, they're selling to a medical research centre in America now that are researching using aloe vera for chemotherapy drugs, which I'm thrilled about. Aloe vera gets to work on the body at the cellular level within an hour, as do most of the greens that I have there. So when you take in and ingest aloe vera, it's getting to work on your body in the cellular level within the first hour. And it's really good for neurofunction, it's really good for reducing inflammations in the body, it regulates the metabolism. Ladies love it because it improves the collagen in their skin and gets rid of cellulite. And it also regulates our metabolism, gets things moving. High impact energy food. And I just actually blend it in, I forgot to tell you, but I stuck it in your vitality drink that you've had before as well. So it was in there anyway. I spiked you all with aloe vera as well. And that's what I tend to do actually. I've got a knife, I can show you how to harvest it. Can we get a knife?
Got to be a couple of people carrying.
I did Birmingham one, so I haven't got that.
There's a youngster over there with the hoodie. And then one just flick around.
But I cut this in a demonstration, yes. Here we go. Look at that.
I thought you were going to carve.
It's part of the amnesty. Well done, Nick.
You're a surprise, mate.
So I cut this in a demo yesterday, so if I run my hand along it now, it's actually quite dry. You'd expect it to be very wet. Aloe vera actually protects itself, it self-seals, and it's literally, like if I was to leave that another couple of days, it would literally almost seal up completely to protect the rest of the gel inside. It's a really durable plant. But this is how you harvest the gel out. So I'm just going to take I'll just cut a piece there. So now you can see it's really wet. You can see sort of like it's gel. It's quite sticky in my hand. So you just run the blade of the knife along the sides of it. And then if you're doing it yourself, just feel the skin under the knife. And then we'll get the gel out. And you could pop this in your mouth, you could just eat it as it is, you could put it in a salad, you could put it in a smoothie. You could do what I did and spike the whole room full of people with it by putting it in a drink. But there you go, that's the gel. Beauty of aloe vera is everybody knows that aloe vera is really good on our skin to heal any burns and things like that. I use it for anti-wrinkles. I put it here and here every day. And I've got it like that. I just rub it all over my hands, rub it on my face. I'm actually 47.
Kids should love that. It's like snot.
Sorry? It'll dry in a second. So, see, I'll just rub it in. So. But when when I take it in every day, I can actually definitely feel my energy levels going up. If you're putting it on your skin, I've got clients that had stretch marks, ladies got stretch marks on their stomach from when they've had a baby, and I go to lots of events and I have women just showing me their bellies. but because it actually is working on the skin and ingesting it, yes.
Is that the big enough piece to kind of do for the day?
Yeah, I actually say a rule of thumb, a thumb-sized piece. That's what I work on. You will notice. It's difficult. It's a difficult product for me to sell simply because obviously I've got to get it shipped from Mexico, and then it goes to Amsterdam, and then it gets to me, and then sending it in the post is quite difficult. So, but the beauty of what it's doing, it's amazing. It's actually, as I say, it's being used now in research as an anti-cancer food. If you look at the periodic table, I was actually reading a study recently. Scientists are baffled because they know that it's got elements in there that are benefiting the body, but they're not on the periodic table, and they don't know what they are. So they're now realising that the periodic table is bigger than what we thought it was, and that aloe vera is probably one of the most sort of pharmaceutically challenged plants that we've got on the planet. It is kind of like one of the darlings of superfoods. I think the reason we don't see it so much is because it's a difficult product to sell, and you can get it in the bottles, but it stabilises in it. It doesn't taste very nice. I just like to use it like that. It's also being used for children with attention. ADHD, and so they're getting great results with using aloe vera for children with ADHD. It's really good for arthritis sufferers. It's kind of, it's a very good superfood. So that's why it's there, and now at least you know how to harvest it if ever you want to. And how much to do. last year to see if I wanted to use them, but it wasn't organic, so they were probably the same size and everything, but they weren't an organic farm, whereas the one in Mexico is organic, and I know it is. And I just didn't feel that it was set up for what I wanted to do. I've got my suspicions about like Spanish farming just because I've read lots of studies on breast cancer. My sister died of breast cancer. My mum had breast cancer 2 years ago, so I've kind of got a big keen interest in following as to why women get breast cancer. I hadn't put that link together with Linda McCartney at all. I had the estrogen link, but I hadn't linked it with Linda McCartney. But there's a high level of nurses who were working on tomato plantations to get themselves through university to become nurses. And the links are something to do with the departments that they're working in, and so sort of like the radiation that they're around, and the pesticides that they've been around, and just a lot of nurses, Spanish nurses have got that, and there's a big link. And actually my sister worked on tomato plantations, and she worked in hospitals, and so I sort of saw the comparison there, and I'm just a bit wary of Spanish farming, plus the bee pollen I get from Romania, and I got bee pollen from Spain, and my taste buds have changed so much over the last 6 years that I can taste when something's got pesticides on it. It tastes, there's like maybe metallic or something there, and I can taste the chemical. And Romanian, I know the bees can go anywhere and collect from, it's very difficult to get an organic bee pollen because bees can be off in a different field. But the Romanians are a lot cleaner than the Spanish because there is hardly any organic farming in Spain. So that's why I use Mexico. That was a long way around to do that.
Interesting geopolitical comment on the nature of the Spanish feckless rockers. They'll edit that out of the video because it will look racist.
I actually went and gave a talk on Saturday, and I started on my whole Spanish rant again, and the hostess was from Bilbao in Spain, and I was like, oh, Renee, you're doing it again.
Bilbao was a crap hole full of factories, so she probably agreed with you.
She did. She's a lovely lady. She did agree with that. Right, so that was aloe vera. Now I'm going to...
Is any strain of aloe vera okay, or is there a particular one? Because I grow it here and it's huge.
I can't say the name of it. It's the... I'll have to write it down. That's it. That's the one. And I thought you could have any. So I was eating any aloe vera I could get my hands on before I started shipping it, until somebody stopped me one day and was like, what are you doing? No, you can't do that. I think there's only like 5 different types of aloe vera plant that you can ingest, but in terms of putting on the skin, we can all aloe vera we can put on the skin, but only about 5 we can ingest. So if there's any white speckles, you can't ingest it. So, I don't know what
That's really nice and weird. I do ingest it.
Yeah, then it would be okay. Because my parents were living in Oman last year, they live in Singapore now, and I was ingesting the stuff that they had there, and I didn't know what it was, but I now know that if it's got white speckles, then you shouldn't ingest it. So if it's just looking exactly like what I've got,
It's greener than that.
chances are.
Than an aeroplane.
There you go. Any questions about aloe vera?
Brings to me.
One of those foods, not necessarily.
This?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways to preserve things like nettles for the winter. So if you made a nettle juice, what's the shelf life of it?
Any juice you should drink within the day.
How do you freeze it?
But so I was just about to say, in the interest of the fact that we've got nettles in abundance and we're trying to work with what we've got, then I freeze it. Because like the aloe vera, I get it shipped from Mexico, and if it doesn't sell, then it's going to go on. And sometimes I run out because it's just completely sold and it's all gone. And then sometimes people just aren't buying, and I'm sitting there looking at it. So I've frozen a load of aloe vera. So a lot of the aloe vera I have is the frozen stuff. And I'm still getting the benefits from it, but it's diminished, unfortunately. But better that than not.
Yeah, I think we've got to find ways to go back to preserving.
Well, it's like, I was given a whole load of plums from my boyfriend's brother the other day, and the family wanted me to make jam, and I'm a chef, so I said, I'll make jam, but I'm not using sugar. I used agave, and I did half agave, and then I used half, and then I made one with half coconut palm sugar, and really nice jam. And then I went out the other day, and someone gave me a big bag of damsons. So, you know, so yeah, I'm cooking a lot of the nutrition out of it, but it's better that they have that jam than they go to Sainsbury's and get something full of preservatives and whatnot. And at least and have no jam. Exactly.
You don't have any jam.
Oh, well, I'm not healthy.
Oh, sweetie, sweetie.
It is, but you know, if
We've got
someone...
such a sweet tooth here, we don't need it.
No, but if people are going to have it, then you may as well offer them a nice alternative of what they can have. You know, it's a bit like, you know, I've got clients that want to give their children cookies. They want their children, they don't want their children to grow up not having cookies. And I'm not a mum yet, but I still think that I'm still going to be that mum that's going to say, let's make cookies together. So I'm going to make the cookies that have got raw cacao in there, and we make it with, you know, oat flour, or we make it with cashew flour. And yeah, I'll sweeten it with agave because they're children and they're going to want to have it, but they're not going to have such a sweet tooth that they want confectionery because they'll have been trained in a different way. And kind of just trying to keep it real as well, and keep them in an environment where they don't feel like they're completely outcast and they're not, you know, if I make it so that they're not allowed sugar, chances are they go to grandma's and sit there and eat twirly whirly, and I don't know about it. So I'm trying to adjust the balance.
As far as the nettles go, if you dried them, would that make it preserve? Would it keep the goodness in it, or would their goodness die?
If you've got a dehydrator, you can air dry them in a dehydrator and it draws out the moisture. So yeah, and presumably you could hang them like you hang a herb, and you could air dry them that way. It wouldn't be as fresh as if you were just to pick it and eat it off the...
Kind of like...
But it's the same principle as this. I mean, like spirulina or anything that's in those blends, they've all been air dried. So they're not as fresh as when they were just picked and you eat them like that. But it's the next best thing. And that's when people say to me about the quality of things, they're like, how do you know about the quality? Well, there are some people that don't have that integrity. So they'll jump on the bandwagon of superfoods. But, you know, like, okay, I'll give you an example. The Chinese, you're talking about my taste buds. I only order organic and I look for reputable places, and I got a shipment of goji berries because I'm not a very big company. I only ordered 10 kilos, which for me was a lot, but obviously it's not in the grand scheme of things. So I got 10 kilos of goji berries from China. I opened the container up, I tried them, and they'd sent me a sample previously, but what I got was not organic. So then I had the problem of then saying, I don't want it, and now I know that in India, I know that the integrity of the Indians, they're going to go to organic. So it's, what can we do? It is about working with our environment and working with what we've got.
Well, Maurice, Birmingham Permaculture, she ran a Nettle Fest over the anyone here went there. It's what a great day. It's called Nettle Fest.
Yeah, that's
it was
fantastic.
soups, it was broths, and again, the freezing, and there was the soaps, all the you know.
People just don't get. I mean, if you've got arthritis and you rub nettles onto the part of your body where you've got arthritis, the steam helps relieve the arthritis. If you're ingesting it, it's really helping to reduce the inflammation in the body.
Right, that's it. It's going to be banned.
No more rolling in there. They're going to ban it.
Could you imagine?
Yeah. They're that sick that I think it, and I thought, no. Whatever I think, no, they've done it. They're going to ban it.
Well, it's funny you say about banned foods. So I went to LA this year and they just love chia seeds in LA. Like chia is the big superfood. Now the reason it's commercially a really good superfood is because it's a really good weight loss tool, and everyone's always looking for weight loss tools. Chia seeds expand 9 times their size. These are chia seeds, don't you can see them. Oops. These little seeds. They're from the mint family, so they're Indian seeds. You could actually you could put them in water and sprout these seeds if you wanted to. But they expand 9 times their size. So if I was to put them in water, or I put them in almond milk a lot, and go back to them, I've got a really thick sort of pudding. But if you were to eat them just like that now and have them, they expand in the stomach, so they make you feel full for longer. And they're actually, if you stay rehydrated and have them properly, they're really high fibre, so they'll keep you energised because they're slow releasing energy in your stomach, hanging around for longer. But then they'll actually will flush out and work the way they should do. They're also really high in omega-3 and 6, so kind of a big superfood. In this country, they're illegal to sell as a food. To say to you now, if you put them in almond milk and and add some cacao powder to it and add a bit of agave, you've got a really nice chocolate chia pudding. It's gorgeous. It's one of my favourite chocolate things to have. It's really easy, it's really quick, and really good energy food. It's not recognised as a food supplement in this country at the moment, and it takes 7 years, so I think it's just coming to the tail end where it will be recognised. So it's the most popular selling superfood in America, and yet we're not really selling it as a food. We're selling it as a novelty food that you can sprinkle over the top of bread.
I was confused when I read the packet and it said sprinkle it on bread, like poppy seeds. But I'm eating like loads of it.
Yeah, there's other raw food companies that sell mesquite, which is from the carob family, and again that's not recognised as a food source in this country, and so they sell it online, and they sell it as a food fertiliser for plants, and they say you can put this over your plants, and I wouldn't tell you to eat it in really nice raw dishes with such as, I wouldn't do that because that's not legal, so I'm going to tell you to fertilise your plants with it, which is just completely ridiculous. It's actually, mesquite's really malty, and it's very similar to maca and carob. It's got a really nice malty taste to it, and it's great in raw cooking, but it's not recognised as food.
Is it true the FDA banned apricot kernels in America?
They've always tried to ban apricot kernels in America. Always, sorry?
Mental, isn't it?
It's very sad, and the sad thing is, with this business, I've come into it from a place of care, love. I want people's lives to change. I actually want to be very successful in something that is giving to people, and I'm so passionate about it that I want to know all the facts and all the science behind it. I want to know exactly what it's doing. I like the fact that I know that goji berries can improve your eyesight, and they can also reduce inflammation in the body you have with arthritis. And at the same time, they're increasing your longevity through removing free radicals. All of that really resonates with me. But there are so many sort of dark sort of elements to people coming and saying, but apricot kernels have got cyanide in them and that can kill you, and it's got arsenic in there. So has an apple pip. Are you going to ban apples? My mum had breast cancer 2 years ago. My sister died of breast cancer, and the first thing my sister did when she found out she had breast cancer was she said to me, I've looked online and I've heard that apricot kernels are really good for fighting cancer. Can you get hold of some? And they sold them in America at the time, but they didn't sell them in the UK. But you couldn't. They were illegal in the UK back then, and you couldn't bring them across. And we're talking, my sister died 11 years ago this month. So we're talking about 12 years ago when we found out. And the internet was a completely different beast as it is now. And it was just, we didn't have the websites, and I just couldn't get them. But then 10 years later, when my mum struck with breast cancer, I already had set up raw cheap food. So I just treated her like any other client. I sat her down and said, right, we're going to change your diet. And I actually put her on 80% raw, 20% whatever she wanted to eat. And I had her on 3 apricot kernels every hour that she was awake. And I had her having them with, so anyone you know that's got cancer, this is a really nice tip. And I was giving her the apricot kernels with pumpkin seeds, because B17 needs zinc at the same time, so I was tying it in with the zinc and making sure everybody was getting both of them. I had I don't really know what to call that next blend, but I had on an anti-cancer blend that I made my mum, ashwagandha in there, cat's claw, reishi mushrooms. We had, what else did I have in there? Canu, just all kinds of stragglers through, all the things that I knew were healing cancer, cacao, and so she'd have that drink once a day. I had her on lots of aloe vera, and lots and lots of raw foods. And I'm going to quickly tell you this story, because her tumour was measured at 18 millimetres by 3 surgeons, and we had 6 weeks until she had surgery. So she embraced all these changes, and 6 weeks later, they removed a 12 millimetre tumour. So her cancer had shrunk by a third in 6 weeks, and I firmly believe that was through her diet. Her positive, yeah, third.
That's more than half the volume, isn't it?
Is it? I haven't really thought about it like that. The sad thing is, she went on to have chemotherapy and radiotherapy. She ended up in intensive care after the radiotherapy. She almost died. And I was nursing her through that and watching her have radiotherapy, and also having to go into the hospital and hear the nurse say, you haven't let your daughter put the aloe vera on your breast again, have you? Because we've told you to just use the E45 cream. And so I'm sitting with the curtain closed thinking, you're asking my mother to put petroleum on her burning breast and not aloe vera, and that's just about education. Like, a nurse thinks that it's her duty of care, and that's her belief. And you know, the FDA, going back to the original, they're a business, and I'm a business, but you know, I only want to sell something that's going to improve somebody's life, and I don't understand why FDA is trying to do that kernels. You know, they claim it's the arsenic and the cyanide. You know, if you only ate apricot kernels all day long, every single day for X amount of days, yes, you would end up with apricot kernel poisoning. Just like the man that only ate carrots died of carotene poisoning. But who's going to do that?
Or drinking water all day, already. You've done that. That kills you.
Your body does need that. It's that not toxicity that your body does need. You know, it's been proved with central skeleton with that. You know, sort of potency of those stuff that's in the seed, you know, is actually needed by the body in life. It's metabolised, you know, taken in by the body.
It uses
Proved
what it
that with
needs.
black salve, haven't they, and the other products, you know, the anti-cancer things.
Yeah, the black pips in your watermelon, your black pips in your grapes. You can't even buy black grapes without pips in them anymore. They've all been, you know, GM'd out. And it's like, well, no, I want to eat the pips. I want my body to have the pips, you know. Anyway. Yes?
Really interesting in your view from that story of the difference between alternative and complementary treatment. I mean, how do you feel about somebody, I mean, I'm experiencing this at the moment where trying to tell somebody who's gone down the academic doctor route and the doctors are just poisoning them, and then you've got this route and they're just kind of so opposite. I mean, how do you find a middle ground that's kind of, if somebody comes to you and he's kind of going for chemotherapy, radiotherapy route?
Look, I never at any stage even said to my mum, I don't think you should have chemotherapy. She didn't need me to say that, but she had my dad in her ear, who she's been married to for 45 years. She had him in her ear saying, you have to have chemotherapy. And they told me that it increased her chances of survival by 10%, but it reduced her life by 6 years. And they tell you that. So for me, that it's just, it doesn't even compute. But I also have clients that come to me that have got cancer, and I'm not a doctor, I'm just someone with a massive passion for healing foods, and I like to tell people what those foods do, and that's what I can do. And I have a client who had thyroid cancer, and she went 3 years having superfoods and whole foods, and they actually told her she'd be dead in a year if she didn't have the operation, and she didn't, and she went 3.5 years, and she followed the path she wanted to follow. But she's now had surgery and she's got a tracheotomy. But even though she's done that, I'm so proud of her because she called me up and she asked me to go and see her, and she asked me to create a blend that she could put in her, she's been fed through a tube in her stomach now. And she said, I'm still in control of what my body takes in. And she showed me what the hospital had given her, like this real nasty carton, I don't know, synthesised, and she showed me, but to be fair, it's probably got all the nutrition in that the body needs to a degree, and she said, what are we going to have? And so that makes me very proud that she's still doing that, and she actually is amazing, she looks great, but sometimes there is an element for Western medicine, an alternative, and I see that. I always use examples of people I know and from my family, and I'll give you an example of me. We found a lump in my breast this year, and it came up really quickly, and her family live abroad, but my mum was home, and I still use the doctors near my family at home, so I came into the whitening sheet, and I was like, okay, don't want to worry you, but we found a lump in my breast. And even though she was worried, I was like just thinking, you know what, this came too quickly, and I'm on all my superfoods, and I've been doing this for 6 years, and I feel really good. What's changed? So I went through the process of what's changed, and running a business on your own is really stressful, and giving to people all the time can be really stressful, and then trying to hold down a relationship when I'm working all the time and nursing my mum back to health and all of those things. I'd stopped looking after myself in some respects. I kind of thought I'd ticked all the boxes. Oh, well, I eat really well. And, oh, well, I exercise. But actually, there's three elements. There's exercise, there's food, and there's also mental health. You're supposed to keep yourself in check. And I'm very conscious of stress. So anyway, we went to the specialist, and they didn't even ask me really if I was comfortable with them doing this. They said, we're just going to take a little prick and just see what's there. But he didn't. He drained my breast, and he drained the cyst, which is quite intrusive. And they drained a 16 fluid ounce cyst, which is big. You think of 16 fluid ounces as water, that's a lot. And he says, nothing to worry about, it's benign. Within 3 days, it was back. Of course it was back, because they've just removed something without really investigating what it was. And I thought to myself, this is stress. You know, moving house, I've got the business, they're all, I've just been nursing my mum, I've not looked after myself. So I took it back to basics, I looked at my diet, it's a bit like what I said before about when I tweaked from my client who was going through the menopause, and I thought, what are lumps in the breast? What are they? They're massive amounts of estrogen. It's a flood of estrogen. Why has my body got estrogen? My body's got too much estrogen because I'm stressed and I've got no cortisol hormone in my body. So A, eliminate stress, but B, regulate my hormones and get rid of this imbalance. So I put myself on all the herbs that I recommend clients. So there are shatavari, kappa-capsule, I was on maca. I just, I detoxed and cleansed. So I took myself on a detox. And I bound my breast in bentonite clay. And then I just used mindfulness and focus. And within 2 weeks, it was gone. Lump gone. Not come back. I've addressed that. And I didn't need, and the doctors were like, we need to come back in and have it drained. And then we need to keep checking you. And then we need to have you in for mammogram. And actually, now that you have this, you need to be on thyroxine for the rest of your life. And that was what I was told, thyroxine for the rest of your life. Well, I'm standing here now, there's no lump in my breast. I've actually addressed the imbalance of what was wrong, and had the tools to do that. That being said, I'm not going to bring this upon myself, like this scenario, but that being said, if I was driving back to Manchester tonight and I got into a car accident, there's, you know, the Western medicine is there for a reason, and of course it's, you know, I'm glad that it's there, I'm glad that I don't like the imbalance of the fact that it's also a business. It's people's choices, isn't it? It's people, I've got my best friend's on IVF at the moment, and it's breaking my heart to see her on IVF. It's breaking my heart to see a massive big box of drugs that they're pumping her with every day, and seeing her emotions changing, seeing the stress it's putting her under. Well, that's her choice in life, you know. What can we do?
Many things as you do. Max out the immune system for about 5 hours a month.
Yeah.
So how many doses you got, and it just takes 1 dose a week. That's been enough for the immune system after about 3 weeks.
Yeah. And then again and again and again.
Yeah.
We must finish, mustn't we?
I was going to say, I always want you to have a round of applause. I think it's a beautiful talk. And, so knowledgeable that people go, I have to check this out. I can't remember it all. I watch it on video, that's why I record it. But I think we should give you a round of applause, and then we can have sort of 15 minutes one-to-one and all that.
Okay.